Well, I hope I'm not tiring everyone out. Well, there's one more little read that I'd like to do. The story is told in a dual timeline. It's told in the present and in the past. Now, we are now in the present. This is the time where CODA gets discovered, and as time goes on, he thaws out and they actually discover that he's alive. I don't want to say too much about the story because it's going to give a lot of it away. But what they do find is that his memory is lost, and as his memory returns, the reader gets taken back into CODA's life and starts to find out how extraordinary this particular being actually is. One of the main issues that I try to address in this book is the humanity of clones. Clones in this respect were used and developed to create slaves and armies and all sorts of designer beings that could do particular tasks. Now, CODA, being a freeborn clone, was one that was born outside of the institution. He wasn't planned. But not to veer off of the subject, what defines a human being? We look at our pets, and our pets can all feel, we can all see that they experience emotions. But what defines a human being, I think, is the fact that they can create. You can see something in your imagination and you can turn it into a reality. What also defines a human being, I think, is consciousness of something greater than yourself. So, with all of that in mind, I'd like to read one passage from, or not passage, one part from CODA's past, and it actually entails his parents. It's got nothing to do with CODA per se, it's just his parents. So I'll read that and then we can maybe have some questions if anybody has any. 3,500 years earlier. CODA is 3,500 years old. XN5, Northern Deep Mine, Sibalian Realm. Now, XN5 is an ice planet that is run by the Sibalian people, or the Sibalian realm, and they use this planet to mine what's called mesorite. And mesorite is a radioactive material which they use for weaponry and the like. And it's an icebound planet, but that'll all come out. A discordant note sounded as the flute arced through the air and viciously struck the bald man on the back of his head. With a sickening pop, Faith felt the skull give way beneath the force of the blow. As the bald one crumpled dead to the floor, his tall snake-eyed partner released Ola, and with the knife in his right hand, rushed at Faith. Sidestepping the knife thrust, Faith punched Snake Eyes a hard, sharp blow to the face and broke his nose. Snake Eyes grunted with pain and came at Faith again with a blur of slash and thrust. Faith was shocked at how painful it was as the blade sunk into his left side. With reflexive force, he brought the flute down onto Snake Eyes' wrist and felt the satisfying crush of bones. Snake Eyes howled with pain as his nerveless hand left the knife buried in Faith's side. Faith lifted the flute to hit him again, but Snake Eyes turned, ran up the alley, and disappeared into the dark night. Ola, who had stood frozen at the wall, rushed to his side. "Faith," she explained, while trying to cover herself with her torn clothing. "You are hurt." "Ola," Faith reached for her. "Did they hurt you?" "No," she lied. Let me help you. Sit here." He sat on the metal crate. "Did they hurt the baby?" "No. You got here before they could do any damage." "Now let me look at that wound." The knife had a straight double-edged 12-inch blade and was still stuck in his side. It was a flesh wound that had exited through the other side, but had missed his vital organs. Pull it out as fast as you can, Thafe said, and took a deep breath. Ola took hold of the hilt. Ready? He nodded, and she pulled hard. Thafe gave an involuntary roar as the blade came out with a sucking sound. As the wound started to bleed, Ola tore a piece of cloth off the hem of her robe. Pressed this hard against it, she tore another strip off her hem and tied it tightly around his waist. I'm sorry I was late. Bala kept me on the mine and I couldn't get away. I thought it had something to do with him. Now let's get you to Dr. Elwyn. Faith picked up the knife and put it in an inside pocket of his coat. She helped him up and he put his left arm across her shoulders. Ola supported him as he limped down the alley towards Dr. Elwyn Rossmadden's house. Faith and Ola were two of a population of humanoid clones produced in the genetics labs of XN5 to serve the Sabalians as slaves. They were designer clones resistant to the effects of radiation and bred with a mixture of DNA for specific purposes. The technique of combining human DNA with non-human DNA had taken almost 1,000 years to perfect. There were limitations that had not been overcome yet, namely a 45-year life expectancy. It was first thought that all clones were sterile, but occasionally there would be occurrences of fertility. All clones were made and owned by the realm. Therefore, any naturally born children were claimed by the realm. They would be institutionalized, programmed for suitable tasks, and later sold. There were many labs on several planets and moons, but XN5 was one of the biggest. The rich deposits of Meserite, a radioactive metal used mainly for the production of weapons to expand the Sabalian realm. Its seas were permanently frozen over with hundreds of feet of ice. All of the mining colonies were built on large or small volcanic islands that rose up from the seabed through the ice fields. Tafe was designed as an aquaminer, bred for the dangerous task of deep water mining below the ice fields. This was done by guiding massive vacuum pipes that sucked up the Meserite-rich silt from the seabed, which was later processed in the refinery. He was a bioaquatic surface humanoid who had both gills and lungs. His hairless body was designed to withstand the extreme cold and pressure of the water under the ice. His aquatic origins were lost in the mists of time. Ola was a domestic servant designed with a submissive and loyal canine DNA. She had a short, soft layer of fine golden fur on most of her body, with only her hands, face, neck, and feet hairless. Her skin was a creamy brown with a soft inner glow. She had a mane of long, dark brown hair which grew from a fine ridge of brown fur that ran from the cleft of her buttocks, along her spine, and up the back of her neck. She usually tied her hair back to be more practical. Her face was human with finely balanced features and soft brown eyes. She had worked for Dr. Elwyn Rossmadden and his wife Honora for the past 5 years and had learned to trust the doctor and to avoid his wife. Honora always treated Ola with disdain. She made Ola use a separate tin cup and plate for her meals with a designated set of old cutlery. Ola had to address her as madam and the doctor as master. She lived in the small back room and was to be permanently available. She was allowed 1 day and night off every 2 weeks at the discretion of the madam. Ola was not to have any visitors, a rule broken twice a week when Faith visited for a few nightly hours of companionship. Tonight was her night off, and they had intended to enjoy a meal together in a local eatery that had a warm atmosphere and good music. They were to meet there, as it was never certain what time Faith would be free. Ola usually took a rickshaw to get there, drawn by those hardy runners bred for speed and stamina, their bodies completely covered with lush fur to withstand the rigors and extreme weather. It was a particularly mild evening, so she had decided to take a walk instead. She had gone a little more than halfway when she was attacked. She had fought her attackers off with a ferocity born from fear and desperation until the bald one landed a powerful blow on the side of her head. She was stunned and disoriented long enough for them to restrain her. That was when Snake Eyes had put the knife to her neck. He had breathed his repulsive breath on her and started to lick her face with his wet, corrosive tongue when Faith arrived. She had never thought Faith capable of such violence. He was a mild-mannered, spiritual man who would never hurt even the smallest creature. Now he had left one man dead and another maimed for life. They arrived at the back service gate to Dr. Elwyn's house. Ola unlocked the gate and they entered the courtyard. There were two entrances to the house. One was to the kitchen, the other was to the small surgery the doctor used to treat the workers. Ola unlocked the door to her room at the back corner of the courtyard and stepped in. It was tight and claustrophobic, with its grey walls, a single fold-down bunk, a metal table and a stool. Faith had set up a pipe across the corner of the room for her to hang a meagre collection of clothing. A small damp bathroom closet with a cold water shower, toilet and basin was situated at the foot end of the bunk. "Sit here," she said, indicating the metal floor, indicating the metal stool. "I'll go and see if the master is in his study." Ola left the room and crossed the courtyard to the kitchen door. She opened it and made her way through to the study. Dr. Alwyn Ross Madden was seated in his armchair facing the small gas fire. He was snoring softly with his book on his chest. She padded quietly across the room and sat at his feet. Touching his knee, she shook it slightly, hoping that he would wake him. That would wake him, but the snoring continued. She tried again, a little more forcefully this time, and the snoring stopped. He opened his soft brown eyes and looked at her with a mixture of sleep and surprise. "Ola, you're supposed to be off tonight." "Yes, Master, but something has happened, and I ask for the Master's help." Dr. Elwyn sat forward and lifted the book off his chest. "What has happened, Ola? Please, Master, come quick." She stood up and went to his side to help him out of the chair. Dr. Elwyn was a big Somalian man with patchy dark and light blue skin. He was in his 50s and was from an influential family, but he had been exiled to XN5 for standing up for the rights of clones, a fact Honora would never forgive him for. XN5 had eroded him, and he was dying a slow death from radiation poisoning. No amount of anti-radiation pills or other more extreme treatments had been of any benefit to him. His body had almost no resistance to the radiation of XN5. On his feet, he said, "Lead the way then," and shuffled hurriedly behind her as Ola led the way through the surgery to collect his bag. "Who is this man?" Dr. Elwyn asked on entering her room. "His name is Thaif. He is my man." "Ola, I never knew. You've never mentioned him before." "No," she said simply. "Can you help him? He saved my life tonight." "I say. So what's the problem then?" Thaif pulled back his coat to reveal the bloody dressing. "Can you take your coat off and sit on the table, please, Thaif?" Thaif was unaccustomed to being asked to do anything in such a polite manner and was unsure of how to respond. He looked at Ola and she nodded. Thaif stood up, and in the small room he seemed like a giant with his 9 foot 5 inch height. If it were not for the open pitch of the roof, he would have remained stooped. He removed his coat and sat on the table. Dr. Elwyn opened his bag and went to work. "So, Thaif, you work on the mines?" Thaif nodded. "Who is your supervisor?" "Bala." Thaif grunted at the burn of the antiseptic as Dr. Elwyn applied it. "You poor man. Bala is particularly unsavory. How did you get this?" "I was attacked," Ola interrupted. Thaif fought them off. Dr. Elwyn glanced at her. "You have chosen well then. Too many are defenseless against these abominations of nature. Protection is only for the wealthy. Everyone else has to fend for themselves." "Yes, Master."